Did you want to introduce yourself, first of all?
I am Hannah. I was a teacher for 5 years before I left teaching, and now I am a web developer, graphic designer, and education consultant.
Got it all. Love it. And I like before we even go into any of the questions, I think that having like multiple roles as well seems to be a really common theme whenever I speak to ex-teachers. So because they're just so fabulous, aren't they? How did you get into teaching, Hannah?
I come from a family that is surrounded with education. So my mum worked in a school, my sister worked in a school, my cousins worked in a school. Even my dad did apprenticeship schemes at the work that he was at. So it was just kind of rooted in our blood, I guess.
It's in the gene.
Um, and despite them all going, don't do it, I did it. And I originally did an undergraduate degree, and then I did my PGCE, which was very intense. And then in 2017, I believe, I started my first year as an NQT in year 5.
How did you find out Key Stage 2?
Wasn't where I thought I wanted to be. Originally, I thought I wanted to be in Key Stage 1 because they had all the magic. I'd done my longest training in year 2.
Yeah.
But when I went to the school, they asked me where I wanted to be, and I went just anywhere. A job is a job at this point. It's just I am happy anywhere. Like I'm still going to be teaching children.
Yeah.
I got put to year 5, and then every year since then I've been in year 6.
How many years did you teach? Did you? It was.
Unfortunately, it was only for 5.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I left.
yeah, that's
I
still a
left.
long time.
Yeah, it is a long time. Unfortunately, it is within that joyful bracket of most teachers end up leaving now within the first 5 years.
Mm.
I do not blame them. Last academic year was my last year.
Was there a point where you thought, okay, this is not going to be in my future anymore? This is teaching in the classroom is just not going to be for me. I'm going to change my story.
Unfortunately, one of the places I was in was a bit toxic. It was very cliquey, and you could tell what pressure the school was under, and then that just melted out into everyone else, the joyful butterfly effect of stress. And I thought about it then, and I decided, okay, I'm going to try and change school because I just want to make sure that this isn't the job itself that is giving me all this burnout, that it could just be this environment. But then COVID hit, so I didn't get to move because obviously no jobs were available, no one wanted to go anywhere. So I had 2 more years in the lovely environment. And I was based in the school during lockdown for most of it, which was a whole thing in itself, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah, it was. When I look back on that, trying to like having all the kids on their own desks, having all their own little packets, us not knowing what on earth COVID is, how it affected the body, just hearing that it was really dangerous and people were, passing away from it. And then to still be working in schools and have people then say that teachers are having all this time off. And it's just like, we were in school, we were there.
We were in school. It was quite scary.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I found it scary because I knew someone that ended up in hospital on a ventilator, and they were there for a long time before they managed to recover. And then there's me going in every day thinking, okay, all these kids are being so good about it, but they are children. They pick up everything, and it's not their fault. But it's just so stressful thinking, okay, I really need to go help you because you're really struggling with those joyful fractions, but I don't want to breathe around you.
Yeah. I remember I was teaching like with a mask on, and obviously I'm Key Stage 1. I'm trying to do phonics, and the children need to be seeing my mouth and this, and it was just like, this is ridiculous. Especially, I felt like as well when we got back after COVID, it was just like, right, get on with it now. Get these kids caught up. Excuse me.
Yeah.
They've missed 2 years of school, and you just want me to, in a year, make that up.
There was a little umming and ahhing about it. And then the government told us, yes, that will happen. And I was like, this is their first full year back in a classroom, and you want us to test them. And I understand. Yeah. And I would understand if they phrased it as in, okay, this is going to be, it's not going to count. It's going to be a baseline so we know where they've dropped things.
Yeah.
Like, I would have understood that because they're all about impact and intent and everything.
COVID, and then you said I think that's really good advice. I think that's what a lot of teachers, again, that I've spoken to who are on that pivotal moment in their career where they're thinking, is it the environment or is it the profession? Which one is it? And then they go to other schools to find out. So I assume you eventually left that school?
I did, and I went to a new school and it was completely different. The head teacher there is absolutely phenomenal. Um, she really respects her staff, she checks in on you, and that's how I knew, okay, it's the profession itself, because here all the staff were lovely, everything was great, but everything that she was being asked to do, and then consequently we were being asked to do, was just so unrealistic. And she was so honest, she would say, this is unrealistic, I know, but we're just going to try our best and see how we get on. And she would put so many things in place to try and help you as much as she could. And the school was so lovely, that that's how I knew it's just the profession itself, and what the government wants everyone to do just isn't possible. And I got very burnt out. My mental health was horrendous. It had deteriorated during my time at the school that wasn't as fantastic. And then here, I remember in a staff meeting, someone, without thinking, just because I was good at what they were asking, said, "Oh, Hannah will do this." And then someone else went, "Yeah, Hannah can do this too." And my brain just started to panic, and I left the room and just went and hid in my classroom cupboard and cried.
Even with the school with lovely head teachers, supportive staff, fantastic environment, it's still unfortunately not enough to keep you in the profession, which is a real shame.
Yeah.
Which goes to show just the unrealistic expectations that are put upon teachers, isn't it? Eventually you left, and did you come up with a strategy to leave the classrooms? Do you have any advice, or could you tell us your story on that?
That breaking point at that inset, where it was no one's doing, it was just my brain had got there. I remember coming home and calling my sister, who herself had previously left education, and I called her and I just broke down in front of her, and she encouraged me to go and talk to someone. So I did some talk therapy, which I cannot recommend enough. And that's when I was signed off work for my mental health. So it wasn't the way I intended to start leaving, but that's when it really hit home that I was very good at masking how I was feeling. And I was just thinking, because of my previous negative experiences, that this is just how it is. This is how every job is. But then as I was signed off for my mental health, I saw how my fiance worked or my family worked, and the times they would go to work or come home, the fact that they could go to the bathroom when they wanted. So I started, while I was signed off work, preparing myself for leaving teaching. And I immediately had that discussion with my head teacher. And again, she was really supportive. She still is now. She talks to me every now and then saying, "Oh, I love what you're doing. I wish you well."
She sounds fantastic.
She is, yeah. So I put in place things ready. My fiance and I had already been doing some web design work on the side. So I decided to start picking that up more full time. I started creating primary progression, and putting my mind into something where I could pick the hours for it was really helpful in me recovering from my mental health and being able to then eventually go back into school part-time. In that part-time, I realized, yeah, I definitely don't want this anymore. This is definitely what pushed me over the edge. That burnout is real, and so many teachers hold it in for so long until they crack. So I really commend anyone that spots it way sooner than I did.
But those burnout signs really creep up, and it took me a good few months to be like, oh, that wasn't normal. Oh, that wasn't.
Yeah.
And you start getting back to your old self. You've touched a little bit about what you're doing now. Would you be able to talk about that a little bit more, about what you're doing now?
Yeah. So before I trained in a PGC to become a teacher, my degree was in creative and professional writing and media art. And within that, I did a lot around web development and graphic design and writing stories. So right now, what we do is he is definitely more into the coding side than I am, but I've learned a lot more since leaving teaching. And we create websites for all different types, so many different varieties of things that I've been involved in, which is great.
Yeah.
I then do graphic design as well. So I've created people logos or branding. And then through primary progression, I'm slowly, at the moment, just to obviously make me okay and my mental health 100%, having fun with the joys of just messing around and making videos and things like that.
Yeah, they're really funny. I love them.
Thank you. And then on my YouTube channel, I also release more educational videos of educating people on how to use technology in the classroom, or why mental health for teachers is so important. And eventually I'll be creating resources and things like that. But one of the things I'm working on at the moment, which I'm quite excited about, is I have 2 books that are almost completely finished, which teaches social, moral, spiritual, and cultural to reception and Key Stage 1.
Nice.
And then the second one is something that I'm quite passionate about, which is women in STEM.
How do you feel that your teacher training helped you with what you're doing now as well?
The main ones would be like communication and time management. So if you can talk to a parent who is not happy with what you have to say on a windy day with a full moon and children going wild, then you can talk to anybody customer service wise. So talking to clients has become very simple to me, because I had to speak to many parents throughout my time teaching, as I'm sure you did.
Yeah, it's all those different stakeholders, isn't it?
Time management wise, it's just the fact that I realised that I could do things very, very quickly as a teacher, and I've been able to slow down because I have more time now. I don't have to get up to 8 lessons done in a day, as well as marking, as well as planning, as well as the phone calls, and just being able to breathe.
Yeah.
I can just, something that at school I would have to do in about 10 minutes, I can spend half an hour doing in this job, because the time frame is different. Not saying that if I, at the beginning, I would get things done way too quickly and be sat there thinking, what do I do now? I've done all my things for the day.
You've been really open about having, the talk therapy and the mental health. And unfortunately, a lot of teachers will relate to that, who are either currently teaching or, they might be signed off themselves. So what advice would you give to people who feel maybe feeling a little bit trapped, as though I'm a teacher, this is all I can do, I don't see what else I can do with my teaching degree? What advice would you give to somebody who might be feeling that way?
There'd be a couple of different things. First of all, I would say it's okay to reach out to someone like you and me who have been there, we have left. And although I did a different degree, but I also know people who left teaching and are now doing other things, and all they did was education training, but they're now in media marketing, or they work in education elsewhere, or they are personal assistants and things like that. There's many a role you can go into. So reach out to someone that you've seen they have left. More than likely, we will all answer. We still have that urge to help everybody.
I've had quite a few people reach out to me. I've tried as much as I can to give that advice. Sometimes I genuinely say to them, I don't know, I haven't got the answer for you, but most of the time I am able just to send a little voice note and just say, look, try this, this and this, let me know how you get on. I always link them back to life after teaching, just saying like, go and have a look at that exiting the classroom, because it's amazing.
After that, I would say think about, obviously, unfortunately, money is the main aspect, but think about what you actually need to live on, and then add whatever extra you want for you to be able to go do things or just be comfortable. And I realised it wasn't actually as much as I thought it was initially, although it seems like what I do now would be lesser than the education pay. It's actually increased faster since than the education pay would.
I've heard that a lot, yeah.
So although I took a drop initially, it's now better. So that's one thing to remember, that although something might seem scary and you need to take that step and nothing's matching what you're getting currently, if you don't need it to match, then take that leap, and remember that the extra time you get outside of work, or just that relief of no stress, is worth that little difference, and then you will make up that difference quite quickly.
Actually, if you think about factors like spending money on your own classroom, buying resources, you think about the amount of fast food that I used to buy because I was teaching, because I was so exhausted I didn't want to cook, saving money on things like that. All those sorts of things that you would spend your money on, you don't really spend your money on. It sort of evens itself out. Now I don't work I don't have to take my holidays during school holidays, so you end up saving money that way. So if I work out throughout the year, I am actually taking, there's more money in my pocket because I'm paying out for X, Y, and Z. So what would you recommend that they must do? So you said about working out, baseline what you need to earn. Is there anything else that you would advise anyone thinking of leaving teaching to do?
I would, if they're not sure if they want to leave or not, and they think they might just need some help, then be honest with your members of staff at your school, your head teacher. If they're really good head teachers, they will be supportive and help you. If they're not, then okay, it's time to go.
That reaction you get back will tell you, won't it? Yeah.
Oh, definitely. The difference I had at different schools from I'm moving on or I'm leaving completely, the one that knew I was leaving completely is still supportive to this day, and other head teachers where it was I'm moving school or I'm just moving, like I physically moved location, so I had to move school, were not happy whatsoever. And I was like, I know it's an inconvenience to you, but I need to go.
Yeah, I need to go. Yeah.
So if you're not sure, be really open about it. If you are 100% dead set, I need to leave, then don't be scared. I know it's easy to say and rather than doing it. I've been there, but it's that, take that step. Just open up social media and find out what people are doing. There's so many different forums you can go on. There's so many people you can talk to that they will just have ideas you didn't think of. They can, like you do, direct them to videos or people that have done it. Talk to your friends and family and see, okay, what job do you do? What actual skills do you need? Because most people I know didn't go to university for their jobs. They learned on the job. So there's so many transferable skills that many jobs will want you because you've been a teacher, because they know what pressure you're under. Whereas you think, oh, I only know about children, I can't really do anything, but actually you know so much more. So really sit and think, what skills do I have to do in the day, in the classroom, in the school? Oh, that's loads. Okay, so I've got all those skills ready, put that on my CV, and I can start applying.